Thank you everyone also as well just for showing up, both for us and for yourselves. Alex and I and the whole team have put a lot of time and effort into this. Very, very, very grateful to have this wonderful group of people here to work alongside. And also, I'm genuinely excited for this conversation that I'm about to have with Sergio because he's been a client of mine for a little bit over 6 months now. And I think his reason why, as well as his mindset, are both things that we can all take something from here. So, just a little bit of background info on him. He's been vegan for 10 years after learning about the real honest truth about the dairy industry. But as we can see here, even on the left, being vegan is more of an ethical stance. It's not a clear cut, put you on rails diet. It's more of not eating animals. And so we can still stray on the physical side. And so that's why it's important to have some structure alongside your ethics. So he spent about a year on his own without a meal plan, and wanted to get support from somebody that had experience and knew how to like guide him on what foods to eat. I think finding some accountability and just having this kind of built into his schedule. He said, quote, "It also helps to have a vegan coach while also being vegan yourself." And I can wholeheartedly agree with that. When I came up in my bodybuilding career, it was very difficult, if not impossible, to find a vegan coach at the time, especially one for bodybuilding, but even just for general fitness. So often I will see clients or hear clients come and say, "Hey, my coach isn't vegan. Will you make me a meal plan?" And it's like, you're paying for a coach and you have your time and effort and resources tied up in this person, but they can't even tell you what to eat. They can give you macros, but it doesn't really help to just be that general and that vague. So for Sergio, his largest hurdle before getting started was the nutrition side, knowing how to properly meal plan for his goals. And now he currently feels really confident and happy that he's comfortable in the gym. That way, with his training, he knows that when something's unavailable, he knows the decisions to make, the decision process for finding the next best alternative, and not really mess with his programming or his split and still be able to see results. I will say, Sergio is not normal. He is the exception here. Most people are not going to be this outwardly dedicated, at least from what I've seen working with a lot of people over the years. But I don't think that Sergio has great genetics or something else that is allowing him to get results that are, not typical here. What he's doing is just really well. He's sticking to the plan, and then also voicing needs when and if he has an issue or a question. I consider that a very coachable person. But I think the coolest part too, you can definitely talk to some of the other coaches about this, but at least for me, I've become very close with Sergio. I view him as a friend more so than just a client, and that happens over time. But yeah, I'm excited to bring him on here and basically interview him, find out and share his story with you guys. And I guarantee I'll learn something new here. So I'm excited myself and kind of just show you how at the end of the day, fat loss is the goal of this summit, and there are different ways to get there. There's different ways that work for different people. So you might find parts of Sergio's story and see how you can apply them to yourself.
100%.
So,
I'm excited. Sergio, when you're ready, you can unmute and share your video. Let's see you. Cool.
Hey,
hey,
how's it
hey.
going?
All right. Well, thank you for being here, brother.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to script this. I don't have this all right now. So if anybody else has questions, they can pop it up on the side and we'll get to them at the end. But I want to talk a little bit more about your original reason why 10 years ago, Sergio. Like let's talk about your vegan journey and how that came to be.
Yeah, so I was vegetarian for 5 years or so beforehand, and when I noticed, just like going on a rabbit hole for on YouTube, I came across Earthlings, and then I was like, let me just watch this, and then from there, I think halfway I broke down. I think through the circus entertainment section, I was just like, I can't do this, and then from there. noticing like the dairy industry and the explanation of it, and I didn't see them like separating a cow and a baby. I saw like a mother and a newborn being separated. And I was like, this makes sense. And then learning that a mother cow has to be pregnant for 9 months, it just clicked. I was like, this, what if I was in that situation? What if I was separated from my family or anything like that? That anguish just is something that I can't justify in any way. So at that moment, I was like, there's no cheese on this world. There's nothing that I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna look away and just uh not acknowledge the suffering of animals. At that point, I was like, if there is any options in terms of vegan cheese, because at that point, I think Dale was coming up and chow
Yep.
slices were.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, like if they're not great, it's not the end of the world. I'd rather be vegan and align my thought process with my actions rather than just ignoring the suffering. So that's why that just hit home for me really closely in terms of like what happens in the dairy industry, and just in general. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, it's also like it's a very shocking realization to realize that cows carry their young for almost exactly the same time period as humans. It's like we're not so different. And so, whatever we can do to ease their suffering. So, in your journey there, I already know some of this, but I think that it's worth hearing again for me, but also sharing with everyone else here. Along this path of going vegan, you didn't just go vegan, you also became an activist, correct?
Yeah. So I want to say, um, so I went vegan in beginning of 2016. And then I went to my first pig vigil in 2017. And that was not intended. I wasn't wanting to go to a pig vigil at all. Obviously I was already vegan, but my best friend, she told me, hey, I found this animal rights group, LA Animal Save. They do pig vigils on Sunday nights. And then I'm like really apprehensive just because it's really late at night, uncomfortable, I'm already vegan, why would I want to go? Like all these kind of like barriers in my mind that I was like, nah, it doesn't make sense to me. And I went at supporting her, like, okay, I want to go just to make her feel more at ease. It's having her go by herself, it just felt uncomfortable. Just if just to have another person of support. So I was like, okay, I'll go for her. And then the first truck came in, um, and so during that time with that group, where we had the privilege of having a good relationship with the police department in that city. And so we were able to get 2 minutes for every truck that stopped at that slaughterhouse. And so during those 2 minutes, we would give them water. We would sometimes just hold a hand against their body or their face or something. What we would try to do is just because these animals don't have never felt any kind of compassion, any kind of love, and to have that, uh, it's just startling. They don't know what to do with it. So sometimes if you go up to a truck very abruptly, they can startle the animal and go up and down the truck and trample one another. So we would just try to calmly approach the truck, give water, and I think like 3 months into consistently weekly going to these pig vigils, um, my family was wondering like, what are you doing? Like essentially like asking me because I would post on my stories or anything like that about it. And I told them, and my brother, who my immediate family is super supportive. They're not vegan, but they're really plant-based friendly. Every time I'm there, we have vegan dinners. Holidays are always vegan since I went vegan. But when I told them, um, I told him, yeah, we see about 20 to 30 trucks a night. And um, sometimes it's tough, especially during the summers. It was really tough because each pig would push each other. They would want water, and because of the heat, it just make them more wanting any kind of relief. So that's why um, when I told him, it just made a click for him. Like this makes sense. Like this is like he was proud of what I was doing and everything like that. And I didn't feel like I was doing anything crazy. It's just like the bare minimum. And I think some people, whenever I would talk about it, it's like, why even go to these vigils? It's like a tease. You're teasing these animals with a little bit of love, and it's like you can explain it by saying, wouldn't you want, like, if you had a whole life of suffering, wouldn't you want at least a minute of relief, of love, of someone seeing you as a person, Um, and so I think for me, I still go to these vigils. That particular pig slaughterhouse has closed down, I want to say 2.5 years ago now. Um, but the groups are still out doing vigils and other sorts of events. But I still go just because of the fact that every time you go to a vigil, every time you go to these particular events, that animal, you'll never see them ever again. That's the first and last time you can probably get a chance to interact with an animal um, in that way. So I think for me, I take photos during these events of these animals, chickens or cows or pigs, and this is the only proof that they existed in this world. Most likely, uh, and more often than not, these animals come into darkness and come out or leave this world in out of darkness. It's like they don't get any kind of any moment of relaxation or love. So that's why I think it's very important if you have availability of going to these type of events, whether it's vigils or protest or anything like that. I think any type of sort of activist event is necessary, regardless of how you feel about it. Some I feel like maybe a little bit counterintuitive, but again, I think all are necessary. So yeah.
Very powerful, brother. I've never been. I'm actually curious for the people here that are live listening to this. Have you been to a vigil? Yes or no? You can let us know in the comments section. And I think this is what it means to be an activist, not necessarily just going to the vigils, but like that is one component of being an activist. And Sergio does this, and the animals get some relief, but also I think it's those conversations that really truly change things. Being able to share what you've gone through and what you've seen can only help shed some light on what's happening to these animals. Um, and I think that this is important here for anybody that's listening to this. This is where some of your strength can come from. I get asked a lot of times, like, would you be bigger if you ate meat? Or what if you weren't a vegan? Would you be a better bodybuilder? And I can't imagine pushing myself harder than thinking about the things that Sergio just mentioned. Like, this is our chance to be a representative for veganism and use our bodies as a billboard when we go out. And so that is where we're going to turn to next and basically talk about finding Sergio's why. Because when you came to me, you were around, I think, around 200 pounds, and you told me, well, actually, you can tell me now, why did you want to drop the weight and get to where you look now?
Yeah, I think so. When I stepped back to do like in-person events for a while, just out of burnout. And so right now it's just trying to heal. But during those events, I would point out like I don't know if some people are aware, um, Anonymous for the Voiceless or those kind of groups where you would stand and demonstrate and show like footage of slaughterhouse um, it's just slaughterhouse footage, but essentially you would have a conversation, and sometimes that conversation will lead into like, well, you can still build muscle on a vegan diet. And I would point out to like people that what I would remember, like, oh, this guy is a bodybuilder, or this person is really exceptional at their sport and they're still being vegan. But I wanted to be also an example by just my own and trying to show like, yes, I was a junk food vegan, and I've gone up and down in my weight, regardless if I was vegan or not. But I want to also show like you can drop weight, you can build muscle in a plant-based diet as a vegan as well. So I feel like that is something that just motivates me to also show that to not just uh, all people, but just also my family members, my immediate family members too, like that they can make that change and be a healthier version of themselves.
Perfect. Yeah, and so I think when you have such a strong reason why, it doesn't necessarily make the work easy. I wouldn't say that, this transformation has been the easiest in the world, but it does give you the strength and the power to push forward. So, prior to us starting to work together on this, what did you feel like were some of the biggest areas like holding you back? Like why what do you feel like you needed clarity on to start your fat loss journey?
Yeah, I think it was I feel like I was just going in circles in a way, because when it came to nutrition, I had no idea. Essentially, I was just trying to hit um, my protein like goal on a daily basis, but I wasn't really focusing on counting calories or just other macros in general. Um, and that's a little bit stemming just from my previous eating disorders. Like, I didn't want to focus too much on that. I just wanted to go exercise and then eat what I wanted, and essentially, but just try to do some kind of a uh, goal in mind with protein. But essentially, that was, I feel like, the main setback or the bottleneck for me was trying to find a meal plan that made sense to me and had enough calories to actually push my body, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, because we still trained with weights the whole time. And I think it's really awesome to show that you like we dropped around 30 I think 30 something pounds, but you definitely built muscle along the way. You were basically getting stronger each week. Um, so I want to know, prior to us getting together, what did you do for training when you were on your own?
Yeah, so I had a couple templates, kind of similar to what we're doing right now in our coaching, but it was very pared down. So, for example, for legs, I would just do lying leg curls and leg presses and calf raises. That was pretty much it. I know that we have a couple other movements on our program, but when it came to push and pull, it was very rudimentary. I knew that I understood the idea and the concept of progressive overload, but I wasn't as comfortable as we are right now, where we're okay, next week, let's add another half a pound, like 2.5 pounds or 5 pounds, and those kind of like minute changes where you're like, what's gonna, what's 2.5 pounds gonna make it? I don't think it's gonna make a difference, but when you compound it with like reps and sets, and obviously like reducing your rest time or adjusting everything like that. It's not just about adding weight, but like all those kind of like minor tweaks. I think it can really change your progress in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, for some of Sergio's movements, we basically increased 2.5 pounds a week. every week for 24 or 30 weeks. Like it at the start, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it allows you to basically build a runway where you can continue to grow and progress over time, uh, and not, immediately burn yourself out, or lose your form quickly from just jumping up too fast, or be likely to get injured. So a lot of this has been the consistency. That's been, I feel like, a big area that a lot of people struggle with. And I think having a plan that works, and I also think seeing the progress actually develop in real time, I think that's part of it too. I think it becomes a little bit addicting to make some progress, but I think also along the way we had some kind of mental hurdles to work through as well. One, I think, would definitely be our relationship with the scale, and then the other would be the relationship with food. So you want to dive in on either of those?
Yeah. So with food, I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but yeah, I've had an eating disorder since maybe 8 or 10 years old. So it's very uh when I hear about like these type of eating disorders, I understand them, or and to a certain extent can relate in some way. Like having a self having a sense of control over your body. Like you can't control anything else but your body, so that's the only thing. For me, I think there was a lot of things that my eating disorder in my mind helped me. For example, like I felt like if I set a goal, my eating disorder will suddenly help me drop that weight much quicker, instead of realizing that these kind of changes that we're wanting to do, it's not just for a quick turnaround of a month or 3 months. It's longevity. It's for your life, essentially this is a whole change that needs to happen not only through your body but your mindset, and seeing that uh, it can be like it's up and downs, where food becomes a hindrance in your mind. Like, oh, I need to punish myself because I didn't meet my certain goal at my scale, or I need to um, I binged and overindulged in a certain day, so I need to cut back on this day. And I think from our training, it's made me realize that I mean, we're not perfect, and I think that's something that we need to acknowledge and just move on from it and grow, like do better next time. And if not, it's okay. Like again, this is a thing that we need to have in mind of just longevity. This is not something that we want to just complete in a year and then, okay, let's go back to what we normally do. It's just, again, creating those habits that are going to last. When it comes to the scale, I think for me, it's just something that was I could I could kind of like in my mind say, okay, I've dropped this particular weight this week, so I'm good. Or I've gained weight, and then that kind of messed up my mood for the day. It's like, okay, like do I need to cut back, or do I need to drink less water, or eat, all these kind of like factors in my mind. But at the same time, I think with you, it's helped me just realize that it's just a number, and these kind of fluctuations happen like day to
Yeah.
day, hour by hour. Um, so I think that that's a really helpful just a reminder that um it's it's going to fluctuate regardless. But it doesn't mean that you're less than, a number. It's crazy that we put so much emotion in these particular measurements, these numbers, these scales, um, because your self-worth shouldn't be attached to a number on a scale or anything like that. And I think that's something that we've done so well together, just progressively like kind of move away from that idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to connect with the people here. Has anyone here gotten up in the morning and stepped on a scale and saw a number and then gotten into a bad mood. So you can put yes or you can put no. And I'm gonna say first of all, I'm still at a yes there. Like it's something that we use, it's objective. It's not subjective. It's not how do I feel today. It's what does that number say on the scale? And I think the biggest thing that we need to all remember here is it is one, just a number. It does not tell you if you have muscle or if you have fat or if you pooped in the morning or if you drank a lot of water the night before. It doesn't tell you any of those things. And I think that a lot of people unintentionally, maybe even with the best intentions, they self-sabotage along the way because they see a number that they don't like and then they restrict calories, restrict water that day, and then the next day they might binge eat or put themselves into a position where just to see a better number, they start to throw the plan out. And so that's been a big thing. And I will say, even with myself, it's still something where I have to check myself. If I see a number, I'm like, ooh, that's a little bit higher than I was expecting. I have to remind myself, like, well, there are other variables at play here. This could be something else. Um, this is also just one piece of data at one point in time. And so realistically, no one single weigh-in means that much. If you hit a new low weigh-in, but it only happens for one day, that's not really where you're at. That's just where you're at for a moment. And if you have a high weigh-in, again, it's just for that one day, and that's just where you're at right then. What's way more important is zooming out and looking at the month and at the week for the trend to see where you're heading. And what we all have to remember, like Sergio, after you dropped 30 plus pounds, the goal isn't to drop another 30. We're not trying to just be a walking skeleton. The next goal, we have to reverse course and start to gain some weight. And that can also be a difficult point in time. And Ashley puts out a really good point here. The scale can fluctuate even more for women because luckily us men do not have menstrual cycles to deal with. We have a little bit more of a 24-hour clock versus like a 28-hour clock, or I'm sorry, 28-day clock. And so again, more reason to just take that as data and not let it be the end all be all number. The next area that I want to check in with everybody, has anyone here, I like to say, dealt with disordered eating? Instead of, because words are so powerful, I try to say things like not like I have or I have an eating disorder or I am a disordered eater, but have you experienced periods of disordered eating? So that we can even just in our verbiage start to speak in ways to give ourselves more power. Maybe today you're struggling with disordered eating. Maybe in the past you've struggled with disordered eating, but maybe that doesn't have to be there for your life. So I am another one here. Bodybuilding, definitely, if you really go deep into the weeds, you start to obsess about training, you start to obsess about food and progress, and so it can lead to this. So it's something that we need to be aware of. So for you, Sergio, I feel like what we did that helped with you is have a pretty solid plan for the day to day, like a meal plan that was able to give you some of the foods that you want, that also allowed you to make the progress in the gym that you wanted. But we also implemented meals off plan. They were tracked, but still basically just about whatever you wanted, right?
Yeah. And that was such a really unique way of like thinking of it. Like, okay, we're gonna be on a diet for uh practically 90% or 95% of the time. And then that 5 to 10%, okay, we can like relax and not track the meal as calories in or calories out, macros, anything like that. It was just a moment to like kind of like uh put your like shoulders down, relax, and then actually enjoy the meal with your family or friends or anything like that, or just by yourself. But that just kind of allowed me to kind of relax on that side and really enjoy that meal. So yeah, I feel like it's it's something that it's gonna be necessary eventually for everyone. Um, I feel like sometimes you want to be very restrictive or very like to your goal, and that makes sense. But at the same time, if you go for such a long duration, at least for me, I feel like I would have easily gotten over, like if I had like a long period of just my meal plan for week on week on week, it might be something that I might be easily just overindulge, and surpass that. And then I feel like sometimes that can play into your mind in terms of, okay, well, if I had a bad meal, then I've gained 3 pounds overnight. And then from there, that mindset can kind of snowball, and you're gonna be like, okay, let's just this this day was bad. Like, let me just relax a little bit more on the next day. And then it kind of snowballs into that. So I think with these kind of meal breaks that we had on a weekly basis where it's kind of scheduled, made it much more easy for me to be like, okay, I'll stick to the meal plan, and then I'll have this meal off plan, and it kind of just alleviates that pressure of like craving particular like foods or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed too a trend because when Sergio does his weekly check-ins, he shares um the meals that he had off plan just so we can kind of hold ourselves accountable, as well as his feedback on how he felt they digested. And so I feel like you started to even find out more about yourself and about, oh, this food I felt good after the meal, I felt good the next day, or this one I didn't. And I didn't tell you what to eat or not eat, but you seem to find the ones that you both enjoyed eating, but also enjoyed how you felt after, right?
Right. I think also another thing that might be really good at and beneficial is just tracking not only like how you felt digestive wise, but also emotionally. Sometimes these kind of meals can really weigh down on you, like, oh, I like it didn't make sense to me, or like this meal kind of like was a waste in a way, or like it felt like I could have used this meal break for something better or anything like that. And then you're like kicking yourself like, oh, I should have waited for this announcement from this restaurant, like where they just revealed a new item or something like that. But I think that's really something that is beneficial, just to kind of track, okay, this particular food or this particular uh, meal, it just feels way too heavy on me. Like somehow, like it just doesn't work for me anymore. And I think that helps just to kind of like reframe your idea of like what is and what isn't going to be working for you. And at the same time, like, yeah, indulge in what you want. But at the same time, I think it's nice to know like, okay, we can go back to my meal plan. And I think like some particular meal breaks, I don't think I've told you, John, but some of the particular meal breaks, I was like, oh man, I could have just gone back. I wish I would have actually had a regular meal plan that I had in our structured routine. So some particular ones I'm just like I'm ready to go back to my regular routine. So it's been overall a good experience on that side. One thing that I forgot to mention with the scales that I think helped me with my relationship with that is uh, our our check-in photos.
Mm.
Just because there were some weeks where I felt like I did not lose weight, and then you would point out, well, actually your back is looking bigger, or you're looking smaller in this frame or anything like that, and that has helped me. Um, and I think there's a little bit of apprehension and vulnerability sometimes with like showing those kind of photos. But I think it's also just good to track it on your own if you want to see, go back, whether it's a month ago, 6 months ago, and realize that you've made such a big change, such a big progress. And that just helps like whenever you're feeling down, okay, I made such a drastic change. Let's continue. Let's not go back. Um, so yeah.
100%, man. I I think that, we have a lot of different things as a coach that we can look for as far as metrics to track progress. Of course, the scale is one part of that, but the photos tell their own story. And then also as far as your check-in form where you get to say how you've been feeling, and then also me being able to see your training. Like, yeah, I think one week we didn't see much of a loss on the scale, but we still went up in the gym. Our weights were going up. And if we look at the photos, we can see the progress, undeniable progress. So you had a complete transformation. Like that is what we set out to do. And I think that we did it. At least, that part. Now we're in the muscle building phase. So I consider this the fun part, the get super strong. But I just want to ask you, I want to check in and see if you're willing to be honest. And are you proud of yourself?
Yes, yes. I feel like there has been moments where I'm like doubting. But I think with someone like you, where it's been such a supportive, uh, open communication between us, like where I felt like I'm able to let you know, like, hey, I'm not feeling good on this particular day or anything like that. I feel like that's been such a eye opener, like that. It's I can have we should have a level of compassion for the people that are wanting to change their lives and not be able to have support because it's such an uphill battle. But with the level of support from coaching, I feel like there's moments where you're like, am I doing this correctly? Am I on the right path? And having that from you has been such a good reminder. You're doing well. And yeah, I'm proud of myself. And I'm proud of what we're doing together. And I tell you week over week that just I'm really glad that we're able to have this journey together. I feel like uh, I feel like the example of like, oh, this physical journey is an uphill battle. I feel like it's not. It's more so like a valley, and there are certain valleys that are higher than others. And I feel like that's just the same way, like where we are in our journey, that there's going to be moments of really tough challenges, and then there's some that are just going to be really easygoing. And I feel like once you get to that point where like you're comfortable with the being you have to start essentially becoming comfortable with the uncomfortabilities of your training and your meal plans and things like that. Sometimes it's not going to make sense. Like, why are we adding certain foods, or why are we dropping, or why are we doing this? And just trusting the journey, trusting the process, you know? Because again, I'm not an expert. I'm just following your guide, and I know that you're doing well with me, and that just feels really good, you know.
Well, I will just say I'm extremely proud of you, brother. You've shown up, and I think that's the biggest thing here is like if we have coaches and we have athletes, it's the coach's job to do the mental aspects, the plan adjustments and things like that. And it's the athlete's job to just keep showing up. And you have shown up week over week. And yeah, of course, sometimes we don't have the best workout. Nobody's always going to be perfect. We are humans and we have a human body. Like sometimes days are just off in the gym and it's not really within our control. But what we can do is keep showing up, keep giving feedback and keep making progress. And so, when you first sat down with me, of course, with everyone, I ask, what's your reason why? And it really stuck with me when you said you wanted to be a better activist. And I 100% believe that you've done that in ways that you maybe don't even know. We've now run ads with your transformation. When we've been able to share that with the world, show other people what they can do on a 100% plant-based diet. And even we had at our first summit, someone joined the summit and they didn't realize they knew you. They had seen you at a party and didn't even say hi to you because you looked so different now than when you did 6 months ago. So that's what I mean by a complete transformation. So I just want to say for me, for the whole Vegan Squad team and for all the animals, we're all really proud of you and I really, really appreciate you, brother. It's been an honor to get to listen to your feedback and just some of the nice things you've said about me along the way. Sincerely, this has been one of the best people I've ever worked with. So I really, really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. Likewise. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's the same thing with like when I'm seeing like the communication through the vegan squad community. It's really nice just see like the amount of support because like I think that's something that uh there's missing in the vegan community or there's not enough like sometimes there's a little bit of infighting in terms of like what is good and what it isn't, things like that. But I think with this community, it's just showing me like that it's better to be together rather than alone. Just because like you can kind of spin off like certain like things like what works for them might not work for you, but that's okay. And we're all kind of growing together. So thank you for all that you do, all the coaches at the Vegan Squad community too. Just thank you.
For me, you're welcome. We've got a few more minutes, so please, if anybody has any questions for Sergio, whether it's about activism or his journey or where you're at or how it might be able to apply to you, let's drop them in the chat or at least give him, some hearts or some emojis on the screen. Because he took the time out of his weekend to be here and share his story with you guys. Hopefully, inspire some people on their transformation journeys and show you that we can be strong without taking anything from the animals and just keep standing up for them. So thank you, brother.
Of course.
Um, we have some comments here. Bridget said that when she quit smoking, she was pretty sure Doritos saved her lungs but murdered her waistline. Doritos, well, luckily none of them are vegan except for the purple bag, in case you guys didn't know.
Yeah.
But they're pretty addictive. They're built to be addictive. When you pair those sweet, carby, fatty foods, like pairing sugar and fat together along with the crunch and the salt, it almost literally becomes an addictive food source. Dustin said, "Feel you, Bridget. Mine has been that, or just fixating on an unrealistic standards and basing self-worth on it. Opposite happened, but been working through it." So clearly, everyone, whether or not we outwardly are willing to share it, quite like Sergio or some of the people in the comments here, these are real world issues facing a lot of people. I think the more that we can share, and also lead from the front, we can help other people deal with the things they're dealing with. And Sergio, you made a post, I think about a month back, sharing some of the disordered eating that you've been through, and I think
Mhm.
that alone, it's a really great way to let other people know it's okay to come forward and share what they're going through as well.
Yeah.
All right. Last call. Any additional questions for Sergio? All right. Alex, you got the schedule pulled up. Where are we heading next?
Yes, I do. Thank you so much, Sergio. It's really awesome learning more about your
Of course.
story.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Yeah.
everything you do for the animals and for
Likewise.
taking yourself on this journey to inspire others, both in being here and posting online, being an activist, going to the vigils, sharing with people. I feel like you're just a huge inspiration for a lot of people in the world, for me, for everyone on this call. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah. I
Oh
really
yeah.
appreciate you all. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, man.